This week's episode of Couch Potatoes Unite! Is sponsored by Found Penny Studio. Found Penny Studio is exclusively fulfilling our Patreon Tier 3 merchandise perk by doing what they do best, creating to celebrate everyday moments like your favorite TV series. Check out Found Penny Studio's creations at foundpennystudio.com and find Couch Potatoes Unite on Patreon at www.patreon.com/couchpotatoesunite.
You say you want to watch a drama. You say you want to watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama. Or you can watch it with your daddy. You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler. So you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night. Couch Potatoes Unite. Whoa, whoa. Couch Potatoes Unite. Whoa, whoa. Couch Potatoes Unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because it's simply a matter of transferring the Couch Potatoes Unite consciousness from one body to another. Am I saying that this podcast is a doll? Well, you ponder on that one while I continue this introduction. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like, for at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panels and I live lives behind our podcast, episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the website or the podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, via Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and CastBox to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Supernatural, Orange is the New Black, Gotham, the Marvel shows on Netflix, Stranger Things, iZombie, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, The Good Place, and The Crown. We've published several episodes in our Looking Back series covering such diverse shows as Revenge, Freaks and Geeks, Star Trek, including the original series, the animated series, and The Next Generation, Reign, and Friends. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Altered Carbon, Doctor Who, Schitt's Creek, Westworld, Fuller House, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Will and Grace. We'll be launching new panels covering This Is Us, The Orville, Big Little Lies, and The Good Doctor. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap, and we'll thank the Golden Girls for being friends. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers, comedy shows, Comic-Cons, and game stores. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in these semi-quarantine times. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to our website, our YouTube channel, our Apple iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play, Spotify, CastBox, and iHeartRadio. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. Just don't remote wipe us with your disagreements. Wait, was I asleep? For a little while. Today's panel is looking back at an American science fiction drama that aired on Fox for 2 seasons from 2009 to 2010 before it was canceled. If you aren't already aware, from time to time, CPU chooses shows of all types, but usually of some fame or notoriety to reminisce about and to consider whether or not they age gracefully, like Echo, deeply along in her evolution, or don't hold up as well, like Alpha, deeply along in his regression. As such, this is another chapter of our Looking Back podcast episodes, wherein we review a show that has been gone, either via natural end or cancellation for some time. Today, that show is Dollhouse. By way of premise, Dollhouse revolves around a corporation running numerous underground establishments, known as dollhouses, around the globe that program individuals referred to as actives, or dolls, with temporary personalities and skills. Wealthy clients hire actives from dollhouses at great expense for various purposes, including heists, sexual encounters, assassinations, expert counsel, and all manner of unique experiences. The series primarily follows the active known as Echo, played by Eliza Dushku, on her journey towards self-awareness. Dollhouse initially received mixed reviews and underwhelming ratings, but improved progressively enough to be renewed for a second season. After the second season finale, the series was canceled. Despite low ratings in its first season, Dollhouse was renewed for a second season because, among other factors, fan response to the show was seen as a reason for the renewal. Fox's president of entertainment stated that if we'd canceled Joss's show, I'd probably have 110 million emails this morning from the fans. As part of the deal, there was a cut in the show's budget, though Whedon stated that this would not affect the quality of the episodes. Ellen Gray of the Philadelphia Daily News gave a positive review, remarking that Dollhouse is less about the ninja kicks and witty banter than it is about instant transformations and about making the audience care about a character who's likely to behave differently every time we see her. That Dushku mostly pulls this off is a happy surprise, as is Dollhouse, which has survived Firefly-like trials of its own to get this far. Alternatively, Tom Shales of the Washington Post wrote that the premise was admittedly intriguing, but described the series as a pretentious and risible jumble, and that Echo did not inspire much concern or interest in the audience. He commented that the actors seemed to struggle due to the decor being so outlandish, stating that it simply isn't worth the trouble. Brian Lowry of Variety also wrote Dushku's grasp of this vague, personality-changing character is a bit of a muddle. What's left then is a series with a hollow center that doesn't initially make you care about its mentally malleable protagonist. Robert Bianco of USA Today had a more nonchalant view of the series, describing Dollhouse as not boring or ordinary, and that the end result is a show that Joss Whedon's most devoted fans will debate and embrace, and a mass audience just won't get. And I read these reviews to seed our discussion today. CPU has previously covered series created by Joss Whedon, though he's become something of a controversial figure in his own right as of late. But we have already talked about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Angel, and Firefly, as well as Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which he co-created. As a favorite conceptualizer for TV here at CPU, 5 familiar CPU voices, along with your very involved moderator, we're eager to convene around the water cooler to reminisce about Dollhouse in one of our Looking Back episodes, during which we will talk about the finer and less fine points of the series in general. As always then, it should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire series and may discuss sensitive plot points. So for those of you who have not watched Dollhouse, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. At this time, I'd like to introduce the panel. All 5 of them know how this works, but I'll remind them, as I will remind you, listener. What I'd like you to do, panelists, is tell us your name, just your first name, not the whole business, just your first name, and then tell us how you came to watch Dollhouse, what made you start watching, what kept you watching, that old chestnut, and then you get to tell us what you thought of Dollhouse. And because we're looking back, you get to give us 2 answers along the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do. And you get to tell us how you felt at the beginning of the show as you were first starting to watch, and by the end of the show as this humble 2-season little series wrapped up. Is everybody ready for the festivities?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. Good. Well then, here's the character question. Think about how you'd rate it thusly along the standard CPU character question twice, beginning and end. Did you love it? It was complex and self-actualized and flawed and messy, but it knew what it was, and it stayed true to itself from beginning to end. Though its life was short, the feelings that remained with you after watching are the best that can be hoped for after watching any TV show of any running length, like Echo, aka Caroline Farrell. Did you care about every character in the world of the Dollhouse more than you let on, but you particularly cared for Echo? Her journey was your journey, and you wanted to see how it all played out, for better or for worse, like Boyd Langton. Were you intrigued by the science fiction, but didn't care much for the lives of the dolls, at least at first? You found as time wore on, the show awakened something in you that you didn't even realize was there. Thus, despite the slow start, you were all in by the end, like Topher Brink. Were you deeply suspicious of the show and of the concept behind the Dollhouse? Sure, it might have explored some of humanity's deepest fantasies, but that also included craven fantasies and topics that the show did not do enough to address in its short run. Still, you watched because you hoped for a happy outcome, particularly for Echo, like Paul Ballard. Did you have no real feelings about the show itself? You only cared deeply for the evolving love story between Victor and Sierra, star-crossed dolls who found a way to love each other against all odds, like Victor, aka Anthony Sicoli. If it wasn't for the love story between Victor and Sierra, you would have bailed on this show early on, as there are too many traumatic themes and story threads complicating the experience for you to truly enjoy what you watched, no matter how hard you tried. Like Sierra, aka Priya Satang. Or did you not care for this show because to you it is merely scientific curiosity and or business acumen that influenced you to stick with it until the end? You have particularly complicated feelings for the performance underlying Echo. Sometimes what you see is impressive, while other times it falls short of expectation. Still, you suppose you were heartened by the happy ending, no matter how cynical about the series you remain. Like Adele DeWitt. Who would like to start?
Hi, I'm Selene.
Hi, Selene.
Hi. I started watching this show because I had a roommate who was like, Selene, you would love this show. And I was like, okay. And we would watch it like every night. And her favorite thing to do was just to watch me react to the show because apparently I had really good reactions. I actually thought I had seen the whole show, but apparently I'd only seen the first season before I started this rewatch. So I had a nasty bit of a shock when I was rewatching and realized I'd only seen one season. So that was fun. Also, fun fact, one of my cats is named after Whiskey because she's got a bum eye and it's got a cut right through it. So I named her after Amy Acker's character. Fun fact for everyone.
That's an awesome fact.
Yeah, and I would have to say that in this, I started the show as an Echo, and I kind of ended the show as an Echo. I mean, you're right, it's very messy, it's got flaws, but I don't think at any point it wasn't what I expected. It was complex, and yeah, basically it was just everything you said.
All right, welcome to the panel, Selene. Selene, what other panels are you on?
I'm on Sabrina, the Chilling Adventures, and the Looking Back on the Teenage Witch. I'm on a Series of Unfortunate Events, Person of Interest, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No, I'm not on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm on Agent Carter. I knew it was an agent. Got there. And now I lost track of all the other ones.
The Good Place.
The Good Place, and did I already say a Series of Unfortunate Events?
You did.
Okay, I don't remember. I lost track, and I was doing good until I wasn't.
That's true. You're also on Altered Carbon, and I mentioned that because the moderator is on that panel. This panel and that panel.
I was on that. Oh, also the 100. Let's just name everything Deitchen Lockman's in.
Except you jumped the shark on the 100, but we won't get into that.
Well, she died, and then it just... Well, others died too.
Spoiler for the 100, and welcome back to the podcast, Selene.
She's on a lot of podcasts panels.
This entire panel pretty much is, except maybe you. And you get to talk next.
Who, me?
Yes.
I get to talk next? Okay, hi, I'm Kylie.
Hi, Callie.
Hi. I have no recollection of how I started watching this show. None. I don't remember how it happened. So that's interesting, right?
Sure.
You got white.
She was
what?
I
got white. Yeah, I got white. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it had something to do, I was saying earlier about Eliza Dushku, who I want to be my best friend. I love her. So it probably had something to do with that, and Buffy, because I was on the Buffy panel. I love that show, and I love Whedon himself. So that's probably how I started watching. Yeah. And I just kept on with it. What's my next question that I have to answer?
Well, you can either do the character question, where you were at the beginning or where you were at the end, or you can tell us what other panels you're on.
Let's do the character question. So I was an Echo for sure, and then I think I ended as a Topher myself. That might be because it was canceled. It might be because I was disappointed, Yeah. I was on Buffy, the panels that I'm on, and I am on American Horror Story and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. And I think that's it. Is that it, Kylie?
I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And what else should the listeners know about you and I? Because dynamics.
Kylie is my sister-in-law. I am married to her brother, who is currently in a Zoom meeting himself at a different part of the house.
Wow. Fun fact.
He's somewhere doing the same sort of thing that I'm doing right now.
Cool. Yeah. And probably will never be on the podcast, but we don't hold it against him.
No, he's a quiet one, that one.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Welcome back to the podcast, Kylie, my sister-in-law. It's a family affair around here.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi. So I did not watch Dollhouse when it actually aired on Fox. I ended up picking it up when it came to Netflix a couple years ago, when it was there for a brief stint. And yeah, I'm a Whedon fan, so I, wanted to give it a shot. And I really liked it. I watched it pretty quickly, and then it was great. It was over, 2 seasons. Sad. And then I just rewatched it again this past week, and in kind of preparation for this podcast, and realized I forgot a lot of things that happened on that show. So a lot of things were new to me after not watching it for 5 years. As far as the character question, I think when I very, very first watched the first episode, Ghost, all those years ago, I was definitely appalled, but it was more because I was really confused. I had no idea what was happening in the pilot. I think I may have watched it twice before moving on to episode 2 in season 1, just because I was like, wait, what are they talking about? I don't get it. I don't really know what's going on. But obviously fell in love with it, watched it all the way through to the end of season 2. And so by the end, I ended up as an Echo. Loved it. I think it's a great piece of television, even though it is such a short, it's 26 episodes, I think, when all is said and done. Yeah, really liked it. So as far as other panels that I'm on almost 50% of the podcasts that you do.
I haven't measured it out, but Kristen is our most involved panelist.
Yeah, I've been around since literally day one with CPU with Kylie. So if you pick a podcast, there's a really good chance that I'm on it. But brief rundown, I'm on the DCTU and Marvel panels. I did Once Upon a Time, Doctor Who, Orange is the New Black, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, The Good Place, Downton Abbey, this one, Agent Carter. Pick a podcast. I'm probably on it. I watch a lot of
slacker.
I was panelist to hit 100 episodes, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, but seriously, I'm on way too many, so I'm sorry. You hear my voice a lot.
Well, welcome back, Kristen. We're always happy to have you.
You love being here.
Hi guys, it's me, Sarah.
Hi, me, Sarah.
I am the third most involved panelist.
You were the third most involved panelist.
Second only to her husband, Nick.
Correct.
Listen, here's the key. Those DCTU Marvel ones, those are always going to keep you ahead of the rest of us because there's like 90 of them. Come on. Anyway, back to this panel. Okay, look, here's what happened. So sometime in the past, I told Kylie I would be on this panel, but I never watched the show. I never watched the show until about 2 weeks ago. So here I am.
This is a twist!
On the plus side, you probably remember more about it than I do.
I remember a lot. I think what had happened was Kylie had said it, and I was like, "Oh, I want to watch that. Put me down for that." And then I never watched it, but I did.
Sounds like Sarah.
I'm caught up, or I thought it was something else, and I'm just totally lost my mind. But anyway,
I love her so much.
Yes, and guess what? I tried to make Nick watch it with me, but he did not like it. So he does not like. He doesn't like the Dushko. Doesn't like the Dushko.
I know. He doesn't. He had very strong feelings about Faith.
He doesn't like her at all.
He doesn't like her. So he gave it a couple episodes, and then I was like, can we watch that? And he's like, I think you need to go on without me. I'm like, fine. Anyway, so since it was so recent and I watched it so quickly, I was an Echo at the beginning and an Echo at the end because I really just hit that hard and fast. And I really enjoyed it. Very intrigued. Yeah, that's where I am. And what other panels am I on? So many. Riverdale. Okay, well, I moderate Riverdale and I co-moderate American Horror Story, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. So check those out if you want me to boss you around.
She does too. She will. She'll boss you around.
Especially
Take it from
Callie.
She bosses me around like nobody else.
I'm on Stranger Things, Doctor Who, X-Files Looking Back, the Star Trek retrospective. I'm hoping that one puts me ahead of the Marvel DC series. I'm really going for it. Lots of looking backs, lots of things coming up. Quantum Leap, MASH. I'm everywhere, guys. I'm everywhere.
And we're happy to have you. Welcome back, Sarah.
It's good to be here. And without that nosy Nick who's always lurking about.
That Nick.
He's probably studying how to play cribbage right now.
I'm leaving it in.
Maybe so.
And who's this British male voice that had the snark?
Hey, I'm Spencer. You've probably heard me on tons of podcasts too. I would say I started out this show maybe as a Topher, but very quickly became an Echo. What else do I need to talk about?
Well, you need to tell us how you came to watch Dollhouse.
I caught it live from the beginning, as best as I can recollect. I definitely haven't watched it since about 10, 11, 12 years ago now, but I have very fond memories of it. It was a great show. Did the typical Fox thing, didn't run as long as it should have. And let's see, I am on all the DCTU podcasts, the Marvel podcasts, pretty much anything British except for the Doctor Who stuff and plenty of upcoming stuff. I also moderate the Altered Carbon podcast, which is another really fantastic sci-fi show. I just like to talk about really good TV, and there is still good new stuff coming too, which is fun to see.
All right, welcome back, Spencer. The lone male perspective today.
Yeah, that's not daunting at all. That's why I'm half in the bag on gin.
Well, I'm glad we're so honest today. And of course, my name is Kylie. I am moderating and participating, as I often do on these panels. I started watching Dollhouse when it was on because if you've listened to any of the other Whedon panels that we've done, I'm a huge Whedon fan. I have literally watched everything he's touched, just about. And Dollhouse was no exception. Plus, I knew Eliza Dushku was going to be in it, and I was already a big Buffy fan, and I don't have the same problem with her that Nick does, so I thought I would watch it. And I kept watching because it was good. I thought it was interesting and intriguing, and it was a little confusing at first. You had to give it a few episodes, but after a few episodes, it started to settle, and then it was kind of very high concept and intelligent, and of course, sometimes that means it's not long for the world. What I would say is at the beginning, I probably was a Topher, like Callie said, and was an Echo by the end, just because I was intrigued at first, a little confused, ultimately very enthusiastic about the concept, and then loved it by the end. It was complex and self-actualized and flawed and messy, and I was deeply disappointed when it canceled, because I thought there was so many more places they could have gone, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're doing our looking back, just a one episode looking back on Dollhouse, and this is how this works. It's basically wherever the panel wants to take it. There's no specific dialogue point that we're going to sit here and meditate on. You can talk about anything that you want at any point. I'll steer it when I think it's gone off the rails, which it may very well. So talk about the show in general. Tell me what you loved, what you hated, anything you want to say about Dollhouse. Let's get the ball rolling. Oh, good. Such a roll. That was real. All that build up and... Help me out.
I think I really enjoyed the characters and the depth that a lot of them have, and the fact that the actors got to play something different every week really had, from an acting perspective at least, it was intriguing, which it kept me entertained. It kind of had a little bit of a Quantum Leap-ish feel to it in that regard, which was another show I've also really enjoyed in the past. I guess I've always liked sci-fi and that element of it, the covert aspect to it. It just kept me wanting to come back and watch it again and again.
I gotta say, I feel like the actors did an incredible job, like especially as you get further into the first season, when you really start seeing them, like clearly they're going out and coming back in and being completely different people. I thought they did amazing, in my opinion. Eliza Dushku really surprised me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because and one of the things that Kylie read at the beginning with the critics, but one of them was saying how the characters were flawed because they weren't different enough. I found in almost every episode, everyone was very different. I thought it was
very different.
Very strong acting.
Yeah, I agree.
Particular once you get into the second season and you literally are like seeing them, like especially like Elijah Dushku when she's flipping between certain characters, and then we get to see like Victor when he's Topher, and then Victor be Anthony, and then Victor again, and like just seeing those switches like immediately one right after the other. That's when I thought they were like really at their best.
I would say Victor was one of my favorite characters. In fact, at the time, I remember thinking, this guy's going to have a great career. Here we are 12 years later, haven't seen him much since. He's playing like a minor supporting character in The Rookie with Nathan Fillion at the moment, but I think that's the first time I've seen him on screen since Dollhouse, which is really disappointing.
Well,
that's a shame.
Celine and I watched him. Yeah, Celine, Kristen, and I watched him in Agent Carter. He actually the male lead, but they canceled that one after 2 seasons too. Although he's reprised the role on the final season of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I have not watched yet, but I'm very excited to do so because I would love to see him again. I think he's a very talented, and I agree with this point. The acting is amazing on this show. Eliza was actually a little bit, for me...
Careful, she's my best friend.
I know she's your best friend. I mean, no disrespect, Callie. I mean, no disrespect.
I think she had the hardest role of all, though, being the main character and having to then still keep a thread but be different.
True.
That's hard.
It's hard the way they wrote that blank state where they're in that like childlike state. It's hard to not be annoyed by that a little bit when you're watching. For me, like, and of course I'm sitting next to Nick who's like, oh, she's so annoying. But I was annoyed by it too at first. I got more used to it once they were all doing it. But at first when you were just seeing her, I was like, this is kind of annoying. But she did a good job. I mean, she stuck to it, and I thought it gave her a lot to do.
Yeah.
It kind of set up like almost like a, not Monster of the Week, but it was like a different thing for the first 3 or 4 episodes. We weren't really in the conspiracy yet. We weren't really like looking at the other characters. We were just watching her do different doll missions every week.
They're kind of getting this world that he's set up.
Yeah. And then once it got out of that, I was like, wow, she's really doing some stuff.
That's the point I was going to make. At first, because they were spending, and I actually think this became a seed a little bit for the downfall of the series, because they had to take time to set up this world. So they spent a little too long at first on the sort of missions of the week. It didn't become compelling. And I remember this very distinctly the first time I watched it, but I even experienced it again rewatching it for this episode that we're recording. It takes literally 4 to 6 episodes just to establish what the Dollhouse is and how it fits into the overall scheme. To me, Eliza really shines in the second season when Echo is becoming an evolved personality of her own. That convinced me, and that made me fall in love with that character much more readily and sincerely than in the first season.
Well, you could completely see a difference between Echo and then Caroline when that was all happening. There was a very clear difference. And that just goes to show how good she and how much she put into it. The other one I really love, whose name I always forget, is the one who's Alpha.
Alan
and
Tudyk.
I love everything he does.
Mm-hmm.
Literally everything. He could just stand in front of a camera and say nothing, and I'd be like, I love you. He's so good.
He was, of course,
everything
Wash on
does.
Firefly.
Yes, and Firefly, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I love him.
When he first came on the scene, for me, the show kicked into high gear with the first Alpha arc. Mm-hmm. That's when I started to get really addicted and very worried about the show's future, because those 2 episodes, which are the last 2 episodes in the first season before that first epitaph, which we'll talk about in a second, are, I think, 2 of the best of the series. He just adds something almost supernaturally good to those 2 episodes, and just how awesome he is, and he plays very, very well against Eliza. And also, the girl that plays Caroline in the chair was on Growing Pains. She was the tiny little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so cute.
Ashley Johnson.
Yeah, speaking of the Alpha arc, the one thing that I really loved about the show was the reveals of who we think that a character is one person, like with Alpha, he was supposed to be like, the environmental engineer, but it ended up he stole that personality to get back into the dollhouse to save Echo as Alpha, and that just set off a huge chain reaction of like other reveals that came along the way, with Melly being November and Dr. Saunders being Whiskey, and the big one with Boyd actually being one of the founders of Rossum at the end. That still shocked me the second time through. So that's the reveals never got boring when they were dolls or not dolls, and loved it.
They also did really good.
Can constantly surprise you.
Mm-hmm. They did really good with misleading you on all of so many characters. Like that entire second season, I'm like, Adele, I love you, but right now I don't know if I should still love you. Like, I'm very conflicted.
She is a complicated character, and I remember the first time watching it, I just couldn't separate in my brain for a minute that she was the wife on The Sixth Sense for a very long time. But then when she got particularly vindictive in the battle with Rossum to try to assert her own control, when she was doing sort of that kind of backhanded plan to double cross them, and of course there's more details, but for some reason they're not coming to my mouth from my brain. I was just she's awesome too, and actually if as long as his career hasn't been derailed by allegations and so forth, there is an upcoming project called The Nevers, which is going to be on HBO, and she's been announced to be part of the cast, so I'm very excited because she's also, this whole cast was amazing. I don't think there was a weak link in terms of how this ensemble fit together.
But when Summer Glau shows up, expect your show to be cancelled.
I know that's the thing now, but... What did we think of Dr. Bennett Halverson when she showed up?
Well, I don't love Summer Glau the way some people do. I don't mind her. I don't care. I don't fangirl about her. I'm sure some people were like peeing their pants when she came on as a character. Your hand, Celine. Sorry.
Celine raised her hand.
Imagery.
It might have been you.
But I thought she did a nice job of the duplicity of that character, because that character was acting one way and doing another thing very openly, and like we could see it, but her aide couldn't see it. I can't remember the name of the actress that was playing her tech, but I knew her from something, and I thought she did a really nice job of playing that, but it wasn't around that much, so.
I think that she's really good at playing neurotic. Summer Glau can really make you... That and her interactions with Topher were just so fascinating to watch. Like that, she's not good, but yet the way her and Topher interact together is just so adorable and disgusting at the same time. You're like, I can't... two nerds in love, I don't know what to do.
But the thing about it is, though... She's not good. Nobody's good or bad in this show. They're all like, they have their own agenda and they all think they're right, but none of them are really just plain good or just plain evil. And that's what made it so compelling, is like, she had her mission that she was trying to accomplish. She didn't know what the rest of those people were doing. She tortured Echo, and that's not nice. But the rest of the time, she didn't know like what the other agenda was. She was just trying to get done what hers was. Her mission was, and I like that because that's how the world is.
I do like her. She does do an innocence, but there's something behind it. She plays that really well, I think. And I like her. I'm with Sarah. I don't fangirl about her, but I think she does a nice job.
I've not seen her do anything bad, but it does seem like she shows up and then very shortly thereafter a show is cancelled.
She's gone. And she's gone. Yeah.
I don't think you can blame any of the vehicles that she was in on Summer Glau. I don't think so.
I agree with you. It's just one of those, Ted
coincidence.
McGinley coincidences.
Yeah, but, since we're mentioning it, she was River Tam on Firefly, and of course she was also in the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which I did watch, which was canceled.
Which was also a good show.
That was also a good show.
Angel, wasn't she on Angel just in that one episode and was like that ballerina?
That's where she got her start, and where Joss found her. He cast her as that ballerina in that one episode.
But if you go with that, Firefly got canceled too, so maybe it's a Joss Whedon curse. I don't know. They get canceled shortly. Who knows why?
Not Buffy, not Angel. I say shenanigans.
I call shenanigans. Were those his first big ones, though?
Yes.
So it was everything after that?
So
Yeah.
Buffy lasted 7, Angel lasted 5. Then it came Firefly, which was not even 1.
1.
Then it came Dollhouse, which was 2. And then
2.
he co-created Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is finishing on its 7th season.
Well, maybe
I
he
stopped
just...
watching about 3 episodes in because the first season was pure garbage.
But it got better, and you're wrong.
The first season was pure garbage, but I do understand that afterwards it maybe got better.
Yeah, we talked about that on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel when I was still on it, that the first season was horrible and you just have to get through it, and then it got better. And then it got worse, and that's when I jumped off.
For me, that's like when I read a book, if the first couple of chapters are crap, I don't finish the book.
I always finish the book. I can't not finish the book. Even if it's terrible, I just read fast.
I also finished the book.
I mean, like, ugh.
If the book's good, I will binge the crap out of it. But if it's bad, there's a couple of books knocking about here that I've read maybe 3 chapters of, and I've got a bookmark in them, but it's so hard to pick it back up.
Jeez, I can't do it.
We have fun personality conflicts.
Hey, did anybody else notice that everybody on this panel's name starts with an S or a K? Ooh.
I did now. And it's evenly split, apparently.
And all the K's, we have the same double initials, so that's fun.
For now.
do.
Yeah, one of you's changing,
Yeah,
well,
it's true,
eventually.
You're not changing?
Hyphenate if I do anything, but I'm not changing.
Oh.
Wow.
Did you talk that over with him?
Boom.
Good for you.
So about
Yeah, I mean,
Dollhouse.
Yeah, I can understand that. I've seen the
Back
last
to
name.
what we're doing.
Woohoo!
We've done a lot of praising. Is there anything that you didn't like about the show?
I'll go.
Okay.
She's very excited.
I have just my big complaint is, and I don't know what the reason for it was, if it was because they knew it was even maybe going to get canceled after 1 season, but the end of the world apocalypse thing at the end of season 1,
Yeah.
I felt it happened that's fine by me. Like the whole concept of that, cool, but at the very, very end, and they did it at the end of the first season. It was way too early for that. Way too early.
That's probably why it didn't air originally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fun
didn't
fact,
it
it did not air in the live run. So when I watched it, I went through it for my second time just for this podcast episode. And when I got to that episode, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
I
I realized in reading up for this today that I have not seen that episode.
And it's basically the seeds of what happens in the series finale. It's like the first part of the story, because they pick up in the series finale kind of from where the first epitaph leaves off.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it. Granted, I just watched this, what did I say, 2 weeks ago? But I really thought it was I love when a show does that, where you're like, am I watching the right show? Who are these people? I always love that because I'm a big nerd. And it was Felicia Day, and I love her. And I was like, whoa, Felicia Day? No, what's happening?
But don't you think it happened too soon?
Well, I can't weigh in on that because I went into this knowing the amount of episodes there were.
There was only 2 seasons, yeah.
So I guess I can't speak to that. But I liked how they visited it at the end of Act 1 and then went away from it. And I was like, but what happened?
Mm-hmm. I wanted that for the very last end if they would have continued. But again, maybe they knew they were going to cancel, so maybe they threw it in as...
It came very close to being cancelled after 1 season.
Effort.
There was a lot of negotiation, cuts in budget, and all kinds of stuff happened to get a second season.
Yeah, so maybe that's why.
Smart. Because it made you wonder then all during the second season, like, we know where it's going. How does it get there? And can they stop it? Or is that set in stone? Or is this like a quantum leap scenario where we can like change it?
Go back.
Times
Sarah, I will tell you now, you have to watch This Is Us because it shows you flashes to the end.
Yep.
You will love that.
Whoa, you guys. Oh my gosh.
So that's my one big thing is that I love that they did it. I just wish there were more seasons and they could have done it later. You know what I mean? Later. But I think that
Like, did anyone else think about 28 Days Later? There's like a guy and his daughter, and they're all trying to get to this place, and there's...
I don't know, but the guy that accompanies Felicia Day, his real name is Zach Ward. He played Scott Farkas in A Christmas Story, you know, the Red Ryder BB gun. He was the bully that got his tongue stuck to the pole.
Oh, that's funny.
There's some more trivia for you today.
I did not know that.
There's a lot of familiar faces, even just in like the small roles. Like the guy who plays James Olsen, or who did on Supergirl, he was in the episode. So like there was a couple other ones too that I'm not remembering off the top of my head, where they had really small bit parts, and now they've done some much bigger things. And Patton Oswalt showed up, and we all love Patton Oswalt. He needs to be in everything. It's great.
And as Sarah mentioned, Felicia Day too. We love her.
Yeah, she's in Buffy.
Yeah, we love her.
And Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, which I realized I did not include in the question about the Whedon transfers, because I maybe had conveniently forgotten about the epitaphs, because I think I'm kind of, now having watched that first epitaph, I'm kind of where Kylie is.
Yeah.
I think it was better that they didn't air it when it was on the live run.
It pisses you off because you're like, wait a second, this is too early for this.
It also comes out of left field, and it doesn't set it up very well. I mean, I feel like the series finale does better to set the stage of where you are than the first epitaph does.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, Dr. Horrible's blog is the best thing Joss Whedon ever did.
Shenanigans, but we'll save that discussion point for a little later in this episode. Because, no.
Buffy.
Buffy.
Never watched it.
Oh so my God, you have to watch it. You can't make these
if I have to watch This Is Us, then you should just give Buffy a quick view.
I'll give Buffy a quick view if I can find it for free.
It's on Hulu.
On Amazon?
Hulu.
I don't have Hulu, so I won't be watching it.
It'll move soon. We'll tell you when it does.
Sounds good to me.
All the time, you know.
So that was
I like Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Oh boy,
that was your
fighting words. Them's fighting words, Spence.
I said I like her.
Oh, you said you like her. I thought you said you don't like her.
No, I like her. I like her.
Oh,
it's good. It's good.
Stand down.
Breathe.
Okay,
but
great.
Yeah, that thing was that's my big beef with the show. Is that
I did not like Topher at the beginning. He was really annoying.
Oh God, he was so annoying, but that annoying kind of grew on you by the end.
He toned it down a little bit.
He also had an evolution, which was nice, and it happened more in the second. I tend to like the second season more than the first season. I don't know how other people feel about that, and that's because some of these characters really go through evolutions, and Topher has a big one. He starts to actually care about the consequences of his actions. And also, we already mentioned, I think Selene mentioned when Victor plays Topher. Those are some of my favorite moments in the whole series.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
That actor is really good because
that was one of the things that made me think that he would have an incredible career going forwards.
Well, maybe he still will.
Let's hope so.
I think the second season definitely had a lot of things to love about it, but the biggest beef I had was that it would go, like, you would get, like, your mini arc, and then it would just move forward without a lot of, like, I feel like, lead-in from one episode to the next. Like, it seemed like there was things missing, and I realize now that that's because they were being canceled, and they knew that, and they were trying to finish the story out, which I really do appreciate that they got as much in and finished it as nicely as they did. But there was definitely, like, you know, times in between when Adele lost control of the house, and they literally went from, like, Topher having realized he had consequences to being the head of the R&D and doing all these things, and you didn't see any of that in between, and you were like, what happened to all that character development Topher just had? Where'd it go? Like, they just kind of turned on dimes like that every once in a while, and I really just wished there had been more to that, which I realize is a pipe dream because they already knew they were being canceled, but...
I think that's a lot of it, is that we all wish that there was more. Does everybody wish there was more?
Yes.
Always.
They wouldn't have had to do the epitaphs then, because I feel like that too soon. So if they wouldn't have aired either of those, or if they would have saved them and re-aired them at the end of the run.
Yes, that's what I wanted.
Like, I would have liked, since they didn't air the first one as scheduled, again, not that I watched it real time, but it would have been really cool to move that and shift that to the end of season 2.
Yes.
I mean, I just liked it how it was. I'll just stand on this side of it.
I didn't mind it where it was. It just really confused me.
Very confusing.
Like, if there had been maybe a slight better lead-in, or at least, as you said, like, I was curious if I was even watching the right show. I was like, Hulu, did you screw up? Like, is this, what is going on?
Right.
And that was probably why it got cancelled, as it didn't stay on what would be considered a steady running script like most procedural TV does.
I wonder who its audience was while it was airing. I feel like the Whedon fans were probably watching it.
Yep.
But I'm not sure that somebody who hadn't seen those things before, I'm not sure they would have jumped onto it, because it is a little bit like, I don't know, science fiction prostitutes, kind of, in a way. I mean, I know that it wasn't all about sex, but it seemed like that was a big part of it. And
I feel like this show would have done much better today than it did back then with the follow-up streaming, etc. I feel like its audience would have been more engaged as I'll watch it when I want to, rather than having to tune in at a certain time every week.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually this show does not fit the definition of procedural TV, because by definition, a procedural television show wraps up its story in the episode that the story starts, and Dollhouse does not do that. It's much closer to the X-Files story structure, where there's more of a story of the week that rotates around the dolls or the missions or what the engagements, whatever. But then there's that overarching commentary about how did Caroline get involved with this? Who is the Rossum Corporation? Why are they funding this project? Who's involved in this project? I mean, there was a lot more to it. And it was very high concept, but I agree with Spencer's observation totally. I mean, this type of show would not find a home on network TV today. It would be like a Netflix show, basically. Like, it's much closer to an Altered Carbon kind of a deal than it is to, anything that we've known on network TV as far as even just simple science fiction. It's not simple science fiction. It gets into a lot of uncomfortable themes and asks you to really think on them. Now, I will say that this aired on Friday nights, so that kind of, I didn't watch
Always a problem.
Always a problem. Back then, it was a big deal. Friday night is not a high TV watching night, and people had to come find the show. And I never watched it necessarily in its hour airing slot. I think I taped it or something back in the days of the VCR, and then would watch it when I could. But it was always within, 48 hours of the airing, but people still had to want to do that, and I don't know that people did.
And they didn't really have a way of tracking that back then, so it could have had another million viewers that they just weren't able to track.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that I think was in many ways ahead of its time, while at the same time dealing in some very muddly concepts that had some delicacies to it.
And what's really interesting is I remember, like, when I first started watching it, I brought up that I was watching it to a friend, and they were like, yeah, I couldn't watch that show because it was just too much for me to handle. And I remember, watching through the first season being like, I didn't think it was that hard to watch. And then I got into the second season where, things get a lot more murkier. And then, there's that entire episode where she's supposed to be Kiki with the professor. And that was just entirely uncomfortable to watch. And the entire serial killer that she partially becomes / has in her brain the rest of the series.
That was like straight out of Criminal Minds. I'm not kidding. There's a Criminal Minds episode where the guy makes them be the doll. Oh, that's yeah. But I know I'm probably like missing the point of the show, but I kind of was like, I don't feel that bad for these dolls because they're going to be done in 5 years and they're they're like in great shape. Like, look at their bodies, and they like just go to sleep and wake up 5 years later and have all this money. So,
and they were saving
exactly.
themselves.
They volunteered for it.
They volunteered, and they were doing it in lieu of like jail time and in lieu of like being in federal prison. But otherwise. Right, and they volunteered, so really, can you feel that bad for them? This is what they signed up for.
Still feel bad for Whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got the sharp end of the blade for sure.
Well, she's also not let out of her contract. They upload Dr. Saunders into her and make her an employee of the house because she's no longer a marketable doll after the slicing and dicing.
But I'd rather be a doctor than have to go to the attic for the next 3 years. Like,
that's true.
That's true.
Should also mention Amy Acker, another Whedon transplant, was Fred and Illyria on Angel.
She's also one of my faves.
Okay, Selene, we can't watch TV together. I feel like she might be my douche coo in a lot of ways. Sometimes she just annoys me, and I don't know why. She's very beautiful. Nice.
I like her better on this one than I did on Angel for sure.
Agreed.
For
I don't
sure.
I like her all the time.
Introduction to her though was Person of Interest, which I still think is one of her best roles. So
that show was so good. I remember when we talked about that. That was another fantastic sci-fi show.
Celine, Spencer, and I are the Person of Interest panel, and we loved it.
I think she is a good actress. There's just something. It's more an Angel than this show. But
I've never seen Angel, so I own it, but I've never seen it.
Well, I think I'm going to say what I said. Just give it a quick watch. Maybe start in season 2 or 3. Pop it in. Just
finish Buffy first. It's fine, but let me get.
She hasn't watched all of Buffy, and she's got no excuse because she owns it. They got it for their wedding, so
we're on concurrently, so she can start if we can tell her where. You would know that more than I. They do overlap.
Yes, they do
a little bit, but don't worry about it. Angel got a little bit tiresome at times.
That's what Sarah and Kylie think. We didn't all agree with that.
Well, Nick also agreed. Nick hated that show so bad.
Nick is not on this panel and therefore has no voice.
David Varenz gets a little boring.
Who?
The lead actor in Angel.
No, not him. He's great.
Absolutely.
No, he gets a little boring.
Disagree. Much disagree.
He can be boring all day long.
I'm talking more from a acting and show perspective that I've seen him in. I can only do so much of him before I get bored.
Well, did you watch
Bones? Yeah, I liked Bones for about 3 seasons.
He doesn't have...
Okay, but let me just throw this out there. Back when I was trying to convince myself that I was straight, I was going straight for him. So,
whoa!
That's why I own Angel. I haven't watched it, but I own it because he was in it.
And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is.
I don't like him, Selene. I give you permission, okay? He and Scott Bakula, I'm telling you, they're like my two Yes, I know Scott Bakula is like 60. I don't care. I'm not going to get over him.
No, I know.
My man crush all day is Nathan Fillion.
Oh, that's a good one.
Kind of Bakula-esque quality to him. I'll give you that.
That's a good one.
I approve.
When I go to the hairdressers, I say, give me the Nathan Fillion.
Oh, that's good. I love that.
They say, who's that?
No, I showed her a picture. She knows exactly who that is.
Okay.
You know who I find boring? Paul. I hate Paul.
Nice. Thanks, Krista.
You know what? He was on Supernatural, right? Am I wrong?
He was.
He was an angel on Supernatural, right?
He was. He's the one that possessed Sam for a season.
Pretending to be one of the archangels. What did you call him, Christian? Boring?
Boring.
There's something I don't like about him as an actor, and I don't know what it is.
I don't either. I mean, it's not entirely his face.
Any Galactica fans on this panel?
Any what?
He's in Battlestar Galactica, the reboot.
Kelsey kept mentioning that.
I kind of want to watch that. What's that about? Is that like a Trek sort of thing?
Sarah, did that actor bother you at all?
No, I loved him. I thought he was great. I really,
Tomo Pennington?
Tomo
He's got a horrible name.
Yeah. Well, he probably likes it. Tomo, if you're listening, tweet at CPU Podcast. Your name is fine. Continue.
Privately at Raw Joy. That's fine. You just I really liked the love triangle that he had, mostly inside, but with Melly or November and Echo. Because, I mean, in the end, he got November out of her contract. He didn't ask for that for Echo. Like, he really cared for Melly, and he felt betrayed by her, but then, like, oh, it was so complex. But then in the end, like, Caroline or Echo or whoever was the one that he really liked.
Yeah.
It's a little creepy that she, like, after he died, ingested him and, like...
Ingested. Like she drank him. He's delicious.
And then she laid down in her bed. Why didn't those beds have blankets? I can't sleep with just... Okay, anyway.
In a doll-like state, you wouldn't need one.
The pods did seem a little weird.
Well, they both were said in season 1 that he harvests the CO2 and the methane emissions from the sleeping dolls. That'd be a little hard to do if they had blankets on.
So it gives them their vitamins and their stuff that they need. It gives them their drugs, Sarah. They need their drugs.
No, she laid down in her little glass coffin, like smiling and thinking about how he was in her soul. Oh, it was weird.
They're probably talking in her head. That's all.
It is.
That was the only part of the series that I was like, I don't know about this.
And Spencer, that I wanted to ask Spencer too, and Kylie, does that actor bother you, or are you fine with him?
I was fine with him in Battlestar. I actually didn't recall until I just Googled him that he was even in Dollhouse.
So you forgot about him?
Yep.
Kylie?
Well, I liked him in Battlestar, but then I really liked Battlestar.
Oh, good.
I like him. I mean, I didn't have a strong feeling one way or another. He's not my favorite. He's not my favorite of the cast. I think his obsession, he has a very weird storyline in the sense that it goes to full-on obsession with Echo, even as he's nurturing these feelings for Melly / November. And then when he becomes part of the Dollhouse, I have trouble understanding why he makes that decision.
Why?
I think it's so we can bring it down from the inside.
I actually really enjoyed the Melly story arc.
I did too.
That was one of the high points of the show for me.
Yep.
Entire end scene with him and Melly when she's been triggered into that murdering assassin state. That was a very poignant moment and very well done.
Mm-hmm. Because that actually caught me by surprise when it happened. When she was flipped like that, I was like, whoa. Hold on.
She's a sleeper. They've got sleeper dolls, too.
I kind of thought his motivations for joining the Dollhouse were really clear to me. I don't know. It just made sense because he needed to know. I said he needed to know.
I think he made a really good wild card in that you were never quite sure what he was going to do next. Because, once he joins the Dollhouse and then he, follows through really well on some things and then he turns around and does exactly the opposite. And then, when Echo went missing and he left after November got retaken and you don't know what's going on and then you see him again with Echo and you're like, wait, what? So I just think he had his role was really important in the grand scheme of things. And I think it was kind of good that you didn't necessarily know if you liked him or not. I don't know. He did really good at not being a character you loved, but not being a character you hated.
That's an interesting analysis, and I'll subscribe to that. But it also kind of bolsters my answer to Callie's question, why I didn't have strong feelings one way or another about him. I mean, I don't hate him, but, I thought he did a good job for what he was given, and I don't know. I actually had much stronger feelings about Boyd's turn.
Same.
I reacted very negatively to the reveal, spoiler, that he is one of the co-founders of Rezmer.
And it happened so fast.
You don't see it. You see it coming.
Yeah, by this time, I think it's because they knew they were going to be canceled. And that was probably their end game, and they were probably building toward it. But because they had to quick pull in some threads and make sure they wrapped it up,
do it.
It really that's like the literal pulling the tablecloth off the table and upsetting everything on the table scenario. And I struggled. and still struggle even on rewatch with that reveal, because you've got this man who looks at, and it seems sincere, looks at Echo/Caroline very dotingly like a father, and then he ends up kind of being a doll too, I guess, in the end is what you learn, but it's still, it's a lot of stuff that I wish they'd had more time to tell than what they did, and it just left me unsettled.
What do you mean by a doll in the end? Like, I know they wiped him, but he wasn't a doll before then.
Oh, he wasn't? Maybe I missed that this time. They wiped him, and that's why he said, "Did I fall asleep?"
Because because Topher had fixed his machine to remote, like, wipe anybody.
Oh, I must have lost that. I trust you. Okay. Well, still.
I had a hard time figuring out what his motive was to personally putting himself in danger in the way that he did to watch Caroline. I mean, we're led to assume that he's the original, like that he's not like Clyde where he's been uploaded a million times. So why would he put himself in that position where he is constantly being put in danger? Because nobody knows who he is. And that kind of selflessness, or I guess lack of preservation, just didn't make sense to me in that context. Like, if you're the head of this entire corporation, why play that long game and be a pawn in your long game versus remote, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, this show was semi-confusing if you really weren't paying attention, and that's probably what led to it being cancelled, that is, it did confuse a lot of viewers.
Yeah, can I say what confuses me? Maybe you guys can explain some of this.
Sure.
The attic was a little confusing. So, like, they were in the attic, and they were under that plastic wrap stuff, but they were running around.
So they were put in scenarios where it was
like that one guy was eating himself.
It was kind of their own private hells, is the way it was explained. And
why though? Because I know that one guy was like a rapist and stuff, but some of those people were just like damaged.
So they explain in one of the epitaphs with the other founder that's uploaded himself a million times, that these attic dolls are what power the dollhouse themselves. And so they keep them in a constant state of adrenaline in these hell scenarios. So the one guy was eating himself, and then Priya, who is Sierra, kept re-envisioning her rape over and over again, and that kind of thing. So that they would...
Did you realize her rapist was Fun Bobby? Ew.
I did. Fun Bobby's not so fun anymore.
Fun Bobby, no.
She goes, ew.
Always plays with skeeze. I mean, Fun Bobby wasn't that skeezy, but he was so skeezy in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. He was the skeezy guy. Bro. Okay,
Okay. Power.
Does that explain it for you?
Yes, but it's like then they were jumping into each other's things, and then the one guy who was the rapist guy, like, helped him, and then he got out, and then Adele was like, put him back in the attic. Oh, this is so... I don't know.
Selene, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say that it does make sense that if you're using all of these humans to be computers and like generators, that they're all going to be hooked up remotely to each other. So if you're running mentally through all the wiring that is all of the people connected in all of the attics, it does make sense to be able to go from one to the other.
And like maybe they should have foreseen that possibility that was maybe going to happen. Maybe.
Yeah. And she got out by dying. Yeah. Basically. She let herself get shot, and then...
Yeah. So you flatline, and then they have to come and help you, and so you can be brought back.
You have to be aware. You can't just... You had to be aware that that's what you were doing in order to be self-conscious enough not to actually die.
Yeah, otherwise you would actually died.
And that was weird, though. That was a good twist how Adele, like, sent her there, and she agreed to go. Like,
I kept hoping. I was like, come on, Adele. I know you can be good. And then she kept doing things that just made her seem worse and worse. And I was really, really worried. I was so glad.
What did you think? So, Selene, since you have such seeming hearts for Adele, what did you think of the whole Miss Lonely Hearts angle for her?
So sad.
I mean, it made sense. Like, I don't know. I don't have much of a thought on it because it didn't really throw me at all. I laughed the very first time when that is revealed that she's sleeping with Victor. And I'm like, of course she is. Why wouldn't she? Like, of course.
I mean, if you were in that position, wouldn't you do the same thing?
No,
probably.
Victor, yes.
Well, no, I mean, in general, the same position, obviously. But like, wouldn't you do the same thing if you were in that position? Like,
I
probably.
know who Selene would pick.
I don't know. That would be hard.
Really?
There's lots of options.
You wouldn't pick Sierra?
Can I pick one?
Sure. If you
That's who
want.
I would. That's who I would pick.
Sierra or Victor?
No, I would pick Priya. I think actually.
Yeah,
That's Sierra.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell your best friend Eliza that you didn't pick her.
Well, she's off the table. She's just my best friend.
This
She's
is a
just
very
why-
complex interconnection going on over here.
There wasn't a lot of variety for us strictly male-loving people. We didn't see a lot of the guys.
You didn't. Mm-mm.
Victor.
Welcome to the late 1990s, mid 2000s.
Yeah.
The whole time on TV was very much about beautiful females.
It's true. It was. Yeah. I never realized that.
Brief tangent. Everybody in the LA house was absolutely gorgeous. And then they took us to the DC house. And everybody they had as a doll in the background was just kind of like
us.
you're nowhere near the caliber of LA. Like, what are you trying to say about DC?
That totally reflects real life, let's be honest. DC is like the cesspool of America, and Los Angeles has all these beautiful yet vapid people.
I was going to suggest the plastic surgery is better in LA, is all I was going to say.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Wow,
It was one of those things I noted. I was like, huh.
this is taking some roads, this conversation.
I think there may have been some intentional commentary by Joss Whedon there.
Maybe. Also, the names of the dolls in the DC house all were after Greek gods and goddesses, which I thought was interesting. And it made me want to know what the code names were in all the other houses, since we had military call signs in the LA house and, you know, the Greek gods and goddesses in the DC house. I wanted to find out about the other houses. And their names.
In London, they were all types of tea.
Seems legit.
You got to ask Joss Whedon for that information, because I bet he has it.
Probably.
Probably in his brain. You got to ask him. Nobody else knows.
Fair enough.
It's a mystery.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about as far as what you loved or you hated before I start asking the good looking back questions?
Go for it.
They've exhausted themselves. So we've already talked about the epitaphs, but now let's focus in on the series finale. What did you think about it as a series finale? Was it a proper send-off for the characters at the time?
I thought so. I thought that it was a good way of catching everything up. I mean, I feel like everybody stayed pretty true to character. Like, none of them really went out of... I don't know. I thought it was really good. I really liked how it tightened everything up and gave it to us in a nutshell.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
I
I thought it was good too. It's good. It just all happened so fast again, but how can you complain about that when you know that it was done, you know?
Interestingly, it was also set this year.
I know. That was kind of slightly like, okay. A little too on the nose, maybe.
I did notice that this time, and I was like, holy shit.
And for them, it was 10 years.
Indeed.
Maybe that's really what's happening out there, and we just don't know because we're in lockdown.
We're all in the dollhouse.
No, is that like the Matrix? I'm not okay with either scenario.
I would be
I agree.
okay with being a doll than, like,
Matrix.
than some other outcomes that could happen if this year went sideways.
If it went sideways, it's
If it
going.
went more sideways. Sorry, let
This
me
whole year,
rephrase it.
the year is
fallen
gone,
off
Selene.
its
It's already
axis.
gone.
I'm only halfway through.
It's gone. It's done. Call it.
I would be okay with being a doll just because I would get more sleep and probably like I would probably be less gray hair. They would maintain me. My nails would be done. Guys,
Being an adult doesn't sound so bad, huh, Sarah?
not
No.
to this person today.
Not today.
I just want to say that I liked the series finale, and I liked the apocalyptic scenario because I think it was a natural evolutionary point for the story they were telling. But I agree with Sarah when she was talking about Paul being eaten by the soul or whatever. That end note on the series was really weird, And I remember thinking it back then, and I feel the same way now. It's an interesting concept because now you're thinking about what is the soul, and is it all of these personalities? And she's got like 45 rolling around in her head, including Paul. And is that something that you really want to imagine as the future goes forward, a what if scenario? So there were parts about this show that did leave me thinking like, ew, I don't know if my brain is ready for that. And I'm pretty open-minded. So
that's one of the things I love the most about this show. I love shows that leave me thinking and that don't just like, okay, that's done, cool. Like if I'm thinking about it next week or next month, that's great.
Oh, I agree with that. I was just talking about this specific couple of moments that I didn't want to think about those things. There were other things I could think about. The end moment was not one of the ones I wanted to think about.
See, and
we could have done without that.
I just kept wondering if that's how all of the interactions in our head went within all the personalities. Were they all literally talking to each other all the time, or was that just specific to her and Paul?
I don't know. How confusing, though, that would be if you were her, listening to all these different conversations in your head.
One of which is a serial killer.
And she looked so peaceful. So
maybe she's just really good at muting them. Maybe she's got a really good remote control in her head.
I mean, I think that's the point, is she's really different. She's different.
Mm-hmm.
She can do it.
That's one of the unrealized potentials of the show, is that I really wanted to know what made Echo so special. That's one of my
and Alpha.
And Alpha. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't even as special as her because he couldn't handle it as well. There's something about
eventually.
her.
He was essentially the broken version of her.
Mm-hmm. That's something that I really would have loved to see play out, is that evolution between the Alpha that we see last before the epithets and then the Alpha in the epithets, because that's quite the evolution.
He's better.
Great.
Yeah, he's like all better now.
Yeah.
I've controlled it.
I wanted someone to say to him, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. Nobody.
Yeah.
Look, they'll never live Firefly down. I'm just going to say it.
I totally love that show.
Yeah.
Me too. Did you ever see the original unaired pilot Echo? It's out on the interwebs.
Nope, I did not.
I
Anyone?
have not seen it either.
Anyone motivated to go find it?
I will.
Kinda.
After I finish Peaky Blinders.
Well, orders and stuff. And, while you're out there, I'm sure there's some sort of bootleg copy of Buffy you can get a hold of.
I might find it in a garage sale on DVD covered in dust, who knows.
I've got them on DVD. We've got them.
So
I own that shit.
So do I. And if it ever leaves streaming, I sleep well knowing that I can just pull it off the shelf at any time. That and the X-Files. So, how do you feel about the original run of Dollhouse now that time has passed? Although in Sarah's case, she doesn't have to answer this question since she just watched it in the twist to end all twists this episode. Does it hold up? Was it time for it to go? Would you have watched more seasons, or should it have ended sooner? Why or why not?
I would have watched more.
Me
I
too.
think it was too compressed.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it had a solid end point where they said, it's going to be like a 4-season show. I think the quality would have held up, and I definitely would have watched more seasons. But as a rewatch years later, it still holds up. It's going to be really interesting watching it maybe in the future when we're no longer in the year 2020. So then they're kind of looking at the past for the series finale. But
let's hope the apocalypse doesn't end us this year so that we can test that theory.
I think it 100% holds up, and I think it would maybe hold up even better now. So I think a reboot would do better now. So
honestly, if this is the apocalypse, I'm disappointed.
It's true. I was expecting much more.
Yes.
I agree. I think this show holds up. It's one of those shows that would have been on Netflix or been on Hulu automatically this year for bingeable consumption and quality 13 episodes, and there wouldn't have been network interference, which Fox was very famous for back then, especially when it came to Joss Whedon. So I'm very much a proponent of that. I don't know, the reboot concept, I guess it would depend on how they do it, because there's something special about this cast. So I think they could take the seed of the concept but I think they'd have to tell a different story with it in order for it to not feel like a betrayal to that cast.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite twist? We've mentioned several of them. Which ones were your favorites, if any? None, I see.
My Alpha stuff was my favorite, I think, but just because I love him so much. So I think it was such a surprise because he's such a good actor. I think I like that, I think, the best. All the Alpha stuff.
I'm a terrible person and I can't take suspense, so I read ahead. I knew everything that was going to happen. I know, you guys, I'm not a good person. You think that I am, but I'm not.
You don't even need to read the books you don't like. You can just skip to the end then.
Sarah and Spencer have just a lovely chemistry.
I mean, this might be a therapy thing. Maybe I need to, I don't know. But so I read ahead, so a lot of things didn't surprise me. But the one thing I did not see coming was the little girl being Caroline. Or
yeah, that was good.
Was she Caroline?
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Caroline was in her.
Yeah, that.
I liked the Paul neighbor love interest flip, and her being the sleeper doll probably was my favorite twist.
I agree. Melly and Alpha were my two favorite twists. They were sucker punches in ways that others weren't. And
the reveal of Whiskey was really good too. It was probably, it's up there. It's not my favorite, but you think you're going to see Echo with Alpha in that kidnapping situation of they're dancing, and the closer you get, you're like, oh, okay, this is Dr. Saunders / Whiskey. So that was fun.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I felt the Whiskey one coming a little bit just because
they were setting it up too.
They were setting it up, and it was Amy Acker, and I kept saying, why is Amy in the not regular cast, and yet she's here all of the time? And then just knowing her acting history and what she's done on other Whedon stuff, including Angel, I knew something was in the back pocket.
Well, the plan was that she was supposed to be a much bigger part of season 2, but she had a lot of scheduling conflicts with another show that she was on at the time. So that's why she's only in like 2 or 3 episodes and doesn't come back. But the plan for Whiskey was going to be much, much bigger.
Well, that's sad. That would have been fun.
Mm-hmm.
More Whiskey backstory. So we've mentioned all of the Whedon-verse alum appearances except for one. That was Alexis Denisof, who played Senator Daniel Perrin in the 2nd season, also known as Wesley Wyndham-Pryce on the aforementioned Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel.
Didn't even notice that was him.
Yep.
I did. But he's just kind of there and doing his thing, his Alexis.
He did an American dialect.
He was
He's actually American.
Still him.
He puts on the British accent for Buffy and Angel. Yeah. Just like James Marsters does for Spike.
Anything. I can't tell British people from American people.
You hush your mouth.
The only real Brit in the Whedonverse in Buffy and Angel is Giles, Anthony Stewart Head.
I say though that the name Alexis Denisof is very fancy and British to me. I don't know.
Except
there's not that many Denisovs in England.
I think it's Russian.
A lot more Smiths and Joneses.
Alexis? That's gotta be. I don't know.
Isn't it more?
That sounds Eastern European to me.
Or Russian.
Russian. Well, all right. I stand corrected. I swear I thought he was from England. He did a nice job. Tell us your dialect secrets.
He's just kind of there, and he's kind of himself. Who he reminds me of is when he is the news anchor on How I Met Your Mother.
Andy Rivers.
Yes, he's the same character. And he's there, and then he's gone, and it's like, okay, yep, that happened.
So, who was your favorite Whedon alum appearance of all the ones that we talked about?
Alpha.
Yeah, Alpha.
Oh, yeah, I pick him. Yeah.
Is that a consensus around Alpha? Everybody's nodding.
There were 3 of us.
We love you. Tweet at CPU Podcast. We'd love to speak to you about all of your fabulous roles that we've mostly talked about.
Yeah,
I love him.
You're great in A Knight's Tale. So we
fantastic in A Knight's Tale. Really good in Suburgatory. Brilliant in Firefly. This guy needs more work.
I also love him in Moana.
Hey, and he's in Frozen. Don't forget that.
He has a prolific voice acting resume. It's prolific.
Who is he? Is he Hey Hey in Moana?
Yep.
I love him.
Look up
I love him
he was
so
talking
much.
about it. It's the greatest.
Once you said it, I knew, but I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. Do we know him? Do we know anyone that knows him?
I don't know.
I don't think that we do, but I love him so much.
If you're listening
I
and
can't.
you know us and you know him, tweet at CPU Podcast. Sarah, you're sleeping on the job. I keep doing this.
I'm sorry, you take my line. You got it. Yeah. I'm racking my brain at who we know that has worked with him, but I can't think of anyone. So come on, friends.
I think I'm several degrees of separation from most of the Whedon people, which makes me sad because I'd love to talk to any of them.
Yes.
The only person that I have a connection to that was briefly in Dollhouse is Jamie Bamber, who played Apollo in the new Battlestar.
Well, there we go.
And
Get on it, Spencer.
Is also in Dollhouse.
He was in Dollhouse for one episode as a guest star.
What did he do?
Let me look it up.
Okay.
I read this earlier.
While you're looking it up, I'll ask the question, did Dollhouse deserve to be canceled? Why or why not?
No.
Why or why not? It's a podcast.
He had lots of story to tell. There was so much story left.
They could have done so much more. There's so much more that is possible with this kind of storytelling that just wasn't possible because it was cut short.
I mean, also, like, even though it was slightly messy, like, there was a lot to it. It was well thought out. It had a great, like, storyline. It had places to go in ways that many shows kind of write themselves into weird spots, and then you're like, where are you going to go from here? This one had a clear arc, a clear spot to go, and lots of miles to get there. Like, you weren't going to fall off a cliff, and you didn't have to climb a mountain to get there. It was clear, precise, and you could basically get there with lots of your turns, because God knows that Whedon loves those turns.
He played Martin Clark, who his character married Echo.
Oh,
Oh.
Good one. You know that person?
I grew up with his wife.
really?
Yeah, I still talk to her from time to time.
Did anybody,
Okay.
everybody answer the deserve to be canceled question? Spencer?
I did
Yeah.
not, and I don't think it did deserve to be cancelled, but it was a victim of the time that network TV was operating back then. There were a lot of shows that did not deserve to be cancelled, but because they only went on the raw numbers of the time that the shows were being live, and they don't have the benefit of the plus 24 like they do now. I think it's one of those shows that got a lot more views than they truly realized.
I agree. And I agree with everybody's sentiment. It did not deserve to be canceled, but then neither did Firefly. Joss has good ideas, and a lot of them are very complex. They're very rich worlds with very three-dimensional characters. You get a lot of traction out of a few episodes, but you gotta let those episodes marinate so that you can get some of the story underfoot. His relationship with Fox ended after Dollhouse. It was probably for the best, because Fox really wasn't giving him the fair shot, and as a network right now is the one that struggles the most. So
something I say very, very rarely, this is a show that I think would benefit from a remake.
See? That's what I said. That's what I said.
I know.
And I fully agree with that.
100%. I think it would.
It's exceedingly rare where I think a show should be remade and have a longer story arc, and this is definitely one of those shows. I wouldn't say that about Firefly, because the original is just close to perfection in itself. This show, I think, could be remade and done even better.
And like what Kylie said, maybe not have it based in the LA house as we know it. Maybe they do the DC house or a Seattle house or something else. Like, it's within the universe, but it's not necessarily the exact same characters.
Yeah, I wouldn't go with the same scripts, but just take that concept and do something, modernize it a little bit even.
Yeah.
What do you think motivated the decision for Fox to do this show? Because I have a theory. For this question, I don't always have one, but I think they were trying to atone for Firefly, and they didn't do a very good job. So
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think that Fox realized their mistake with Firefly, with the blowback they got from the fans.
which led to a whole movie that was released before this show in Serenity. So,
and I think they thought, well, he keeps getting these good shows that get good followings. Let's greenlight another one, and then they screwed him over again.
Well, I've got a question. If you get that kind of blowback and you're going to give a person a show to try and atone for that, why not just bring back that original show? Like, I know you've missed a season, but if you cancel something and then plan on just giving them a new show to make up for it, you might as well just bring back...
Some of the actors have moved on to different projects already and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, this is a very infamous story, and unfortunately, Firefly is not one that could ever truly be reunited anymore because the man who played Shepherd Book, Ron Glass, has passed away, and all of these actors, I mean, that show now is almost 20 years old, Firefly. This one is 11 years old. So
11.
Yeah, so there's just there was a lot of time that even passed between Firefly and Dollhouse, and, you know, I just think Fox's network president back then was kind of a screw up and didn't do great. There was a lot of really good high concept shows that they were willing to put on their network, but not really let them breathe long enough, especially in the sci-fi genre. Sarah Connor Chronicles was also on Fox. So just to kind of put that into perspective, if you're a Terminator fan, I watched that. It was great. That's where Lena Headey got her start before she was...
It was a great show.
Yeah, it was a very, very good show. And Fox just had... Spencer used to like to rag on NBC. They were the network of not goodness afterward. Fox was this era.
Yeah, Fox was the first one to do it. They were always trying to catch a show that would be, you know, like a Friends or a Seinfeld in popularity. And when a show didn't hit those numbers quickly, they would dump them in a heartbeat to try and replace it with something that might. And then shortly after that, NBC started doing the same thing after their runs of Friends had ended and stuff. They were still looking for that kind of popularity and not really realizing that network TV was changing.
A change that has persisted to this day. So what would you say to that Fox head that made this decision now that the show's been canceled? How do you feel about it? What would you say?
I can't say that without it being edited.
Can't you bleep it out or something? Can't you like go beep, beep, beep?
Yeah, it would be bleep you bleeping bleep.
Bleep, 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 bleep.
I wonder if he's still in the business.
I don't know. I did not research that prior to today's recording. I researched a lot, not that question. Everybody loves that question. Okay.
I mean, what can you say? What can you say? What can you say? You screwed up.
Yeah.
You screwed up.
Do you still regret it to this day?
Yeah, you screwed up a lot, and this was one of them. That sucks. So
you probably have like money and cocaine to make them feel better. So I don't think that they care.
They don't care.
They don't care. I mean, I just throwing it out there.
It's true.
So
Truth.
Spicy. Here's an interesting factoid that I learned. Dollhouse, along with J.J. Abrams' Fringe. This was a very good year for me, by the way, because I loved both those shows.
Fringe was brilliant.
I love Fringe. During its
I didn't
first...
watch that one.
I did not enjoy it. I didn't
watch that one. I don't know that one.
Kelly probably would not like it, but maybe you would. I just have a feeling you wouldn't like it. Sarah, I'm kind of shocked.
I love Joshua Jackson. I mean, you would think I would be on board, but I really struggled with that one.
I don't know what to say that would make that better, because with Fringe, you really have to be along for the concept.
I don't even know what it is. Maybe I'll look it up later. Anyway, that's fine. I'll look it up.
I will say that John Noble, who was Denethor in the Lord of the Rings movies, plays a sort of mad scientist, if you will, in the show, and he's excellent. So he's worth it.
Would Austin like it?
Austin might like it. Yes, I could see Austin liking it.
Oh, then maybe we will give it a shot. Okay. We'll see what he thinks.
All right, let me know how that goes. At the time, these two shows were aired with half the commercials for an extra 6 minutes so that Fox could do remote-free TV and charge premium prices for the advertising space. Do you remember this at all?
Nope.
No.
I don't either. It's interesting.
I just researched the head of Fox in that time. He is now over at TBS and TNT, so his career arc has slowly moved down. But he greenlit Empire and Gotham at Fox and The Last Man on Earth when he was in his second stint there. He's actually been involved in quite a few shows. Very interesting to read.
Well, Gotham was a crazy mess. Empire turned into a crazy mess. Last Man on Earth, is that the one with Tim Allen or the one with the other guy?
No, not the Tim Allen one. But he also was credited with developing things like Heroes on NBC, 30 Rock, Friday Night Lights, Deal or No Deal, and America's Got Talent. So he's been involved in a lot of things over time.
So he's got a good eye for TV, but apparently, I don't know. What happened, dude? What happened? Why did you hate Dollhouse? This is my question.
Maybe it was too intelligent for him.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
All right. As with most of the Whedon properties, Dollhouse continued in comic books. Have you read any of them, or are you interested in reading them now?
It did?
It did.
Now that I know there are comic books, I am interested.
I'm kind of interested.
Celine
I
is
wouldn't mind
interested.
picking one up to see where the universe is now.
I do too. I actually am more motivated about these comic books than I have been about the Buffy, Angel, or Firefly ones.
The Firefly ones are good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be interested in Firefly too, because I still get together with people and play the Firefly board games.
I love
because
those
they're fun.
games. They are my favorite. So invite me.
Will do.
Okay.
And if Kylie comes, I come too.
Dollhouse was released during the days of viral marketing, including portal websites. Dollhouse set up 2. One was a participation drama with interactive webisodes and a series of experiences that provided clues about the Rossum Corporation and the apocalyptic future of the Epitaphs. Did you participate in any of those? For those of us who watched it in the real time, did you find those?
Now, so oddly, that's before I started picking up on that kind of thing. I think the first TV show I ever picked up on that kind of thing was Heroes with the paper company.
Save the cheerleader.
I
Save the
didn't
world.
with Dollhouse. I didn't notice it.
I didn't know it was happening either. I did play along with the Heroes one too, but I think it was a trend that mercifully ended.
I would agree. It's very hard to keep the audience interested if you don't have something that directly ties in. And a lot of the time it seems like it was, well, this is a fun thing to do. It has nothing to do with the show. It just has the same brand.
Is there anybody who has not, well, we've established that Spencer has not watched Buffy and probably Angel, which he's going to rectify somehow. And Selene...
I've seen some of Angel.
Okay. And Selene hasn't watched either. Well, she started to watch Buffy. I think you need to finish. Is there anybody else who's not watched any Whedon properties?
The only one I haven't watched is Angel.
The only one I haven't watched is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I thought it was a DCTU / Marvel situation, and I just steered clear of that.
It is Marvel, and you wouldn't like it.
I don't mind the ones. I like the fast guy.
Flash.
Flash.
Him, and I like him. Is he in it? Is he part of that?
It's DC.
That's DC.
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, that's DC. It's Barry Allen.
Yeah, I'm out.
And that's the shirt I'm wearing right now, the Flash. See?
Yeah, that guy. I like him, and I like that they did a musical episode. So this
That was fun.
This one's like Jessica Jones and the blind guy and the...
Same universe, but vastly different story. Daredevil's the blind guy. But at least you're in the ballpark.
Okay, I haven't seen it, but maybe I'll give it a whirl. But you guys said it wasn't good, so I don't know.
No, I
Has
like
everybody
it.
at least watched Dr. Horrible?
No, I never.
Yes.
I don't know. where
Oh,
it is.
Sarah.
Sarah, you will love it. You'll find it
It's a
on
musical!
YouTube.
It's a
3 45-minute
musical!
episodes, and it's one of the greatest things ever made.
It's so good.
It's a musical.
So good.
It's musical too,
I
yes.
know all of that. I don't know where it is. I thought it was on like the Netflix. It's not there.
Go to
I
YouTube
Own it.
and look up Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog.
And just
3
watch it.
45-minute episodes, and it will change your life.
Okay, well I'll do that tomorrow.
You better.
I don't work in the summer.
Celine just mentioned she has it, so if you can't find it and you're properly socially distant, she can lend it to you.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, though. Like, I think you could just watch it on YouTube.
I'm
I'll
checking right now.
And I feel like it's on one of the streamers. I just don't know which one. It's not Netflix, but I just don't know which one it is right now.
Yeah, it's
Probably Amazon.
That's what
I have all of them. I literally have all of them.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay,
YouTube.
I will check that out tomorrow, guys. So you can just edit all of this right out.
No, because I think now we need to know that. I think you should watch it and then message us how you felt about Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, and then we'll just put a footnote in the Rich webpage when I post this episode.
Maybe post a poll. Do people think Sarah will like it? Yes or no?
Well,
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Everybody that says no isn't human.
you've
Right.
already mentioned many times that if it's musical, you love it. You even watched the Supernatural musical episode without having really watched a lot of Supernatural.
I've never watched.
I mean-
I've seen that episode 3 times, and I've never seen any Supernatural. And I've seen the Flash Supergirl musical episode, and I don't really watch much of that stuff. So, guys, yes.
Neil Patrick Harris, Nathan Fillion, Felicia Day.
Yeah.
You just can't go wrong. And musical.
All right. Okay, great.
I'm willing to bet money.
Me too.
Now I have something to do tomorrow.
There you go.
Go.
Boom.
We expect texts.
How does Dollhouse compare to other high concept or science fiction dramas? How would you rank it among your personal favorite series, either in its genre or in general, or does it even merit a ranking?
It doesn't make my top 20, but I enjoyed it.
Agreed, it's not my favorite. It's not even my favorite Whedon. I actually would put Buffy, Angel, and Firefly over Dollhouse, but I still enjoy it.
See, I would put it, if we're going genre-wise, I would say it's probably, like, in my top 5 of, like, that science fiction, but that high-concept science fiction. Because it's definitely...
For me, my benchmark on that would be something like Altered Carbon, and it's not even the same league.
I think it's in the same league.
I think it is. I mean, like, I would say that it's in the top 5 with Altered Carbon and, like, Sense8 and Person of Interest and...
All of those are great shows, by the way, that we've all covered on the CPU podcast, and highly recommend.
I suppose if we go genre-specific, it would be in the bottom half of my top 10 of that genre.
I don't know.
But overall shows, it doesn't even crack my top 20.
How do I put it with other science fiction things? I don't know how to put it with anything else. So I don't know how to compare it. Sorry. I just, it's kind of Quantum Leapy, but not as good as Quantum Leap. I mean, nothing is.
Agreed.
It's not really a Trek kind of a science fiction, but it's not really like a Buffy supernatural thing going on. So it's Fringe. I like it better than Fringe.
Oh.
You're right. You're struggling because it's kind of its own thing. It's hard to find a spot for it. Yeah. And it was only 2 seasons. So it's like, where do you put it?
I think it's in the same realm as a Fringe or an Altered Carbon or a Sense8. I think all of those, they're all vastly different, but it's that sort of plotted, high concept, very specific gimmick to each of those shows. I've watched all of those shows. I love all of those shows, but Dollhouse probably would rank under all of those shows that I just mentioned.
Yeah, I haven't seen Sense8, but the other ones you mentioned, Dollhouse would fall beneath them.
And I do think that, but I think Callie's point is well made. It was only 2 seasons. It's the what might have been, you know.
And as we said earlier, it felt kind of compressed, which those others do not.
Right. Sense8 even was a 2 and out for Netflix, but it was by the Wachowskis, and they plotted it a little bit better. They didn't have a grander scheme that reached as far as Dollhouse does. So.
But they knew it was a 2 and out?
No, but it also was 2, and then it got a movie ending.
Yeah. And the concept, the gimmick of that... They mapped it out by season as opposed to...
Grand scheme.
Yeah, I think the Rawson Corporation, the Boyd reveal, and the Apocalypse were always part of the grand scheme. They just had to run sprints to get to the end by the cancellation. So. Yeah. Have you followed any of the cast members to other projects, or would you? I mean, I technically followed Eliza here.
I mean, I think I followed all of these main actors to other shows, but not intentionally.
I would agree with that.
I think I would continue following them, although I don't know, once again, that would be an intentional thing, or if they just tend to be in shows that I like. I don't know how that works.
I think that's true. I've seen them in other things, but I didn't seek other things out because of them.
Same.
It was like a pleasant surprise. Oh, cool, I've seen this person before.
I don't know. When Buffy actors or Firefly actors crop up, I do tend to be like, oop, I better go watch that. So this one was definitely, because Joss was doing it and Eliza was in the lead, I was like, I have to watch Dollhouse. I have to.
Yeah.
If they did something tomorrow, I'd have to watch it. I don't care. Just show me. It's probably good. I don't care. But the rest of them, I don't know. I kind of want to... I've had Battlestar Galactica on my list for a long time, but I don't think that's just because of Tom O'Pennicott. And Dyken Lockman does appear in a lot of the shows I watch. Does anybody?
I not secretly love her, so I do follow it. I would follow her to another show.
Did you say you not so secretly love her?
Yes.
Okay, that's accurate. I was like,
I was going to say, from our Altered Carbon podcast, that's obvious.
She's got the hearts. Does anybody watch The Blacklist?
I used to.
I watched the first 4 seasons. I haven't watched it for a while.
Watched the first couple, yeah. It was good, and that's the guy who plays Boyd is excellent on The Blacklist.
And James Spader is so good on screen.
so good.
I did watch Commander-in-Chief back when that aired. I might have been the only one, but I really liked that show.
I don't even know what that show is.
Gina Davis became the president of the United States.
Ah.
It didn't last very long. I made my parents record that on the VCR while I was at basketball practice.
There's a sentence you haven't said in years.
That's not dated at all.
Oh, Selene.
So now here's the $1 million question. The one, because, Couch Potatoes Unite feels responsibility to fellow TV watchers and our listeners. Would you recommend Dollhouse to others? Why or why not?
I would, because despite its flaws, it's still entertaining television. It makes you think. It gives you something to take you out of reality, and God knows we all need that right now. It's 26 episodes of decent entertainment. So if you like sci-fi and you enjoy some good performances by some strong actors, it's well worth the watch.
I completely agree. If you got the time, watch it. It's a good show. It holds up still. Why not?
I would, and I did.
Boom.
I wish they could have seen your facial expression in the sound recording there, because that was priceless.
Yeah, I recommended it to two of my sisters, and then they were like, "We're watching that right now." But it turns out they were watching something called Dollface or Doll.
Oh, that's not the same thing.
No, it's not. But then I said, "Stop watching that and watch Dollhouse." I don't know if they did. So Chelsea and Hannah, if you're watching, if you're listening, maybe let us know. Tweet at us at CBU Podcast.
There you go.
There you go.
Sarah. Good job,
sisters.
I've also recommended it and will continue to do so because I love it and there's lots of great people in it.
Who have you recommended it to?
Well, everyone in my household and anybody who likes Alan Tiddick or any of the people in here. And I don't know, I'm just like a fountain of recommendations whenever I talk to anybody. Usually within like the month after I watch a TV show, I tell everyone, you should watch this TV show. But I do continue.
Kristen?
I've not specifically recommended it to people because I haven't come across anybody who hasn't seen it yet.
That's good.
I mean, obviously all of you guys have already seen it. So, yeah, I mean, if I come across somebody who I think would like it, I will absolutely recommend it.
I would recommend it because it's a self-contained 2 seasons. I would recommend it to Whedon fans. I can't imagine there's a Whedon fan out there who hasn't tried to watch it. It seems pretty implausible because we are a tight-knit group who tends to watch whatever he makes. But I also would recommend it to anybody who loves a high-concept science fiction vehicle, and we've already mentioned some similar stories like Altered Carbon and Fringe and Person of Interest and Sense8, those types of things that are so immersive. I think immersive is a really good word for this. It definitely does provide an escape. You get involved with these characters. They play a whole bunch of different other characters. There's almost a dizzying aspect to the fact that people's personalities change each and every episode. And then you're also trying to keep up with the people whose personalities aren't supposed to be changing, but are doing shifty things on the side, and you don't know if they're good or bad, like Adele, like Selene was talking about earlier. So, I mean, there's a lot to like about Dollhouse, and even if you decide, well, it's not your favorite, I don't think you'd regret watching it in the end. And that's a pretty good recommendation as recommendations go.
And I'd say one of the recommendation points as well is it does have an end. It doesn't just, we had 2 seasons got cancelled. They at least got to put an ending to it.
Exactly.
So you will get a gratifying termination.
Gratifying termination. Is there anything else that you want to say that we haven't already said while looking back at Dollhouse?
I just remembered that the person who plays Topher is in the latest remake of A Midsummer's Night's Dream. And if you want to go on a trip and a half, I highly recommend watching it because it is a trip.
And a half.
He plays Bottom.
Oh.
Then something else. Oh, he's in that Cabin in the Woods movie.
Yes.
Oh, Cabin in the Woods was by Joss Whedon. That's not surprising.
Well, there you go. And I watched about 35 seconds of it. It was like,
And then you got up and left?
And then I Googled it and read the synopsis. So I do want to watch this because I like to know things, but I don't want to watch it. It's so scary.
Sarah, when Cabin Out of the Woods just came out of your mouth, I thought I was having some sort of like seizure. Sarah did not watch Cabin in the Woods. There's no way you watched that.
Nope.
You didn't watch it.
No,
you didn't. No.
It has the sexy guy from Grey's Anatomy, so I was like, ooh! No, not. It's not that cabin in the woods. It's not that.
I'm surprised you can get through American Horror Story half the time. So
I
Sarah.
sometimes cry and say, "Turn this off. Why are we watching? Why am I doing this? I don't."
I've met you.
Stop.
I know. I've met you.
So this is revealing some dynamics from the American Horror Story panel, which, as we've mentioned, Sarah co-moderates and Kylie is on.
She can't handle it.
Check out that actor if you like scary and or trippy things.
Who made the Midsummer Night's Dream?
I don't know, but Rachel Lee Cook is also in it.
Okay.
And Lily Rabe. Lily Rabe's in it.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm looking. I've got it. It was directed by Nicholas Schindler and Ross McGibbon. I don't know them. It was written by William Shakespeare. Oh, you knew that.
Thanks, Sarah.
Shocker. Spoiler alert.
It was? No way.
Teach this to children, this play. So, you see, did you like that?
Did William Shakespeare really write it?
That's the question.
Yes.
Me and my sister hate watched it while drunk. I'm
That's
telling
fun.
you, it is quite. It's interesting.
Oh, maybe this is the wrong one.
I just found it. It relocates the story from the traditional ancient Athens to present day LA.
In film, they're all parts of film school. It is interesting.
This sounds like trash.
The newest one, though.
Maybe I was wrong. It might not be the newest. It's the newest one I've seen.
2017, 2018.
Okay, there's a 2019.
Oh, my bad.
But that's okay. I just gave you the wrong director, though. Hopefully the writer's the same. This director was...
I'm on pins and needles.
Hopefully the writer's the same.
Sorry, what did you say?
Casey Wilder Mott. Guys, I love Rachel Lee Cook, but she is too old to play Hermia. There, I've said it. I've said it. If I'm too old to play Hermia, she's too old. It's just, it's now been said and we're moving on.
Okay.
All I keep thinking about is the drugs commercial.
What?
All I keep thinking of is the number of zeros that it takes when I think of Shakespeare. I cannot stand it.
I love Shakespeare and A Midsummer Night's Dream, but this version kind of sounds like trash.
This is your Midsummer Night's Dream. This is your Midsummer Night's Dream. Drugs.
Finn Wittrock plays Demetrius, Kylie, so there you go.
What? With who?
Finn Wittrock.
Playing Demetrius? It still sounds like trash. As much as
If
I love
you
it.
can watch it, it'll make it better.
It's not the version I will show in my class. I'm still in the Kevin Kline version with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes.
Classic.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So what you're saying is if I do experience this, I need to come equipped with a bottle of wine.
Yes.
Got it. That
Strong
always
wine.
bodes well for a recommendation for anything.
Hey, as somebody who loves to hate watch things, I enjoy that kind of stuff, but I understand how some might not.
We hate watch things too. It's okay. We love to hate watch things. Do it all the time.
Is there anything else you want to say about Dollhouse before we end this episode?
I love it.
I like this one. I think that we've covered it.
All right. Well, if you think that we've covered it and everybody has said all their feelings and they're ready to go now, can you go now? If you like. What I'd like to do is thank Kristen, Selene, Kylie, Sarah, and Spencer for joining me to talk about Dollhouse and to look back at the fourth Whedon show that we've covered. And because we've done such a good job looking back at Dollhouse, it is now time to roll the credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kels Rezmer. Kels played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole shebang was engineered by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, Take the time to rate us, give us stars, provide comments, or review us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Amazon are just a few of the places you can find us, but we're also on YouTube. We have our website, and we're now on Patreon at patreon.com/couchpotatoesunite. If you really love us, pledge your support by becoming one of our United Couch Potatoes as we grow our little sofa-populated corner of the world. Otherwise, feel free to tell us how we're doing, what we should add, subtract, keep, or toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions for shows we might consider, contact us at our website where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, our Facebook, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, our Patreon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time, and always have new episodes coming down the pipe. Just listen to our intros. If you miss old episodes or want to know in general what shows we cover, just search for us. Find us wherever you do searchable things on the internet. Don't forget that exclamation point, or contact us via our website, our email, our social media accounts, and our Patreon to stay up on all the new events and episodes by our humble little podcast, Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. Until the next time, Dollhouse is available to stream on Hulu, as we've mentioned previously in this episode, to which Spencer seriously needs to subscribe. If you have nominations for shows we should cover on our podcast, contact us via social media or our email. You can volunteer to be a panelist too. In the meantime, and until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.
Goodbye.